Assalamualaikum and good evening to everyone. Today my group, Hazwani Izzati, Binti Rashid, Diong, Xiao, Jing and Fazlina Binti Hilmi will discuss about the challenge and trends in Malaysia science education. This topic is about on how to produce new young scientist generation.
Okay, first of all, I would like to explain about what is OECD and its purpose. The full name of the OECD is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It is an intergovernmental economic organization with 38 member countries that was organized in 1961 to promote economic growth and global trade. It is a platform of countries that describe themselves as committed to democracy and the market economy, and it provides a platform for its members to compare policy experiences, seek solutions to common challenges, identify good practices, and coordinate domestic and international policies. The majority of OECD members are developed countries with high-income economies and a very high Human Development Index, HDI. PISA, which its full name is the Program for International Student Assessment. It is a triennial survey of 15-year-old students that evaluates their achievement of key skills and knowledge required for full participation in society. The evaluation focuses on students' well-being as well as their ability in reading, mathematics, science, and an innovation area. The innovation area was the global competence in 2018. Now, I would like to share about the results from PISA 2018. Malaysia has participated in the PISA 2018 survey that does the research on reading, mathematics, and science. Results for reading, mathematics, and science are released on 3 December 2019. Some 600,000 students completed the assessment in 2018, representing about 32 million 15-year-olds in the schools of the 79 participating countries and economies. In Malaysia, 6,111 students in 191 schools completed the assessment, representing 388,638 15-year-old students, 72% of the total population of 15-year-olds. Malaysian students perform worse than the OECD average in science. OECD average means that the average marks from 37 OECD member countries. Why only 37 but not 38 member countries like I mentioned just now? It is because the 38th member, Costa Rica, hasn't participated in the OECD in 2018. It formally became an OECD member in May 2021. In Malaysia, around 63% of students obtain a level 2 or higher in science and has 15% difference to the OECD average, which is 78%. The students that obtain a level 2 or higher in science can identify the proper explanation for familiar scientific events and may use this knowledge to determine whether a conclusion is true based on the facts supplied in simple cases. In Malaysia, 1% of students obtain a level 5 or 6, which has a large difference from the OECD average, 7%. These students can apply their knowledge about science, even some that are unfamiliar to them, in a creative and autonomous manner. Mean science performance in 2018 was higher than in 2009 and in 2012 in our country, due to the possibility of bias caused by low response rates in the original PISA sample. Malaysian PISA 2015 results cannot be compared to prior years or with those from 2018. The technical standards were completely met by the PISA 2018 findings. The analysis states that socio-economic status was a strong predictor of performance in science in all PISA participating countries. It explains 17% of the variation in science performance in Malaysia, compared to the OECD average of 13% of the variation. Besides, PISA 2018 also analyzes the difference between gender and concludes that girls slightly outperform boys in science by 2 score points on average across OECD countries, while in Malaysia, girls outperform boys in science by 6 score points. Among high-achieving students in mathematics or science, approximately 1 in every 5 boys in Malaysia wants to work as an engineer or a science professional by the age of 30, whereas around 1 in every 7 girls expects to do so. About 2 out of every 5 high-achieving girls expect to work in health-related sectors, while 1 out of every 10 high-achieving boys does. In Malaysia, 2% of boys and 1% of girls expect to work in ICT-related professions. There are some issues in the school that make learning less effective. This statement can be proved because some 24% of students in Malaysia reported that in every or most language of instruction lessons, their teacher has to wait a long time for students to quiet down. Based on the result from PISA 2018, on average across OECD countries, 21% of students had skipped a day of school and 48% of students had arrived late for school in the 2 weeks before the PISA test. In Malaysia, 16% of students had skipped a day of school and 37% of students had arrived late for school during that period. From here, we can conclude that discipline of students in Malaysia is better than most of the OECD countries. Students who were frequently bullied were more likely to skip school in most countries and economies, whereas students who valued education had a better disciplinary environment and received more emotional support from their parents were less likely to skip school. Now, I would like to discuss about the challenge faced in science education nowadays. One of the challenges faced is students' lack of interest in science subject. So, as science teacher who lead students, our responsibility is to get them interested in science subject. But how? I have some techniques that entice students to interest in science. Firstly, teachers can guide the students to do activities hands-on. Students tend to activities that have movement as opposed to passive teaching. There's only interaction from the educator only. This method is old-fashioned because students are now much exposed to current technological developments. Tutors need to diversify hands-on activities to keep students focused on the learning session. A variety of hands-on activities, such as guessing cards according to color codes, creating building models from used materials, doing experiments, and various other activities. Next, statistics in Malaysia show that a high percentage of students have technological devices such as smartphones, laptops, and tabs in every household. The conclusion that can be made is that many students are exposed to technology over time. So, this is one of the ways that teachers can use to attract students' interest in science education through the latest technology. Tutors can teach based on the material that has been provided in the video and in turn can ask students to do assignments using information technology methods as well. For example, the school installed an interactive whiteboard, also known as smartboard, in the process of teaching and learning. Social media such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram can also be used in the transmission of student work to teachers. Thus, learning will be more interesting because it is in line with the passage of time. Then, teachers can make lesson plans based on students' level and progress. The purpose is to let the students learn in a more comfortable environment. If the lesson is hard but the progress is fast, they will not understand the contents and thus feel that science is so boring. So, to increase the effectiveness of learning, we must know what problems faced by the students and then apply the key skills of computational thinking, decomposition, which let the complicated problems more manageable by breaking down the problems into smaller parts and solve the problems step by step. What about your findings, Fazlina?
Other than PISA, there is another test or studies that are related to PISA, which is TIMSS, or also known as Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. TIMSS is an initiative of the International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement, or IEA. This test is held to study the mastery of international students in mathematics and science. This test was introduced in 1995 and is implemented every 4 years. In 1999, Malaysia started to participate in this program. This test only focused on the Form 2 students in all types of school in the Ministry of Education. In the first year of participation, Malaysia recorded the best performance where our country ranked 10th out of 15 countries. However, the country's performance showed a sharp decline where in 2011, our country was ranked 26th out of 42 countries. The sharply declining TIMSS test performance in Malaysia proved that most of the students lack mastery of topics in mathematics and science subjects. This is due to many factors. One of the factors is that most of the teachers prefer to finish the syllabus quickly where the learning and teaching process is done expeditiously. Without realizing it, the teacher doesn't prioritize the student's understanding. As a result, students do not deeply understand the concept. Plus, the exercise given by the teachers to test students' level of understanding can be considered a waste of time because students are unable to complete the assignment due to lack of understanding of the topic. There are also some students who are willing to imitate the answer of other friends because they do not want to be scolded by teachers. This has been in contrast to the actual concept of exercise where the exercise is used to train students to answer the exam questions. There are a lot of ways that we can do to overcome this problem and to develop students' interest in science education. One of the ways is the teachers have to study their lesson plan in order to increase their level of understanding to a higher level. As a result, the teachers can come up with new ideas using different methods to explain more detail in the learning and teaching process, such as using YouTube, quizzes, and Kahoot. Plus, a teacher's creativity in the teaching process also required to develop a student's interest, especially in this pandemic, because most of the learning and teaching process will be held online. For instance, the Ministry of Education has introduced digital learning objects or DLO like Google Classroom, Zoom, Google Meet, and many more. By using this technology, teachers also can motivate students to explore science topics deeply in order to prepare themselves with hot questions. As a conclusion, teachers should overcome this problem by increasing their level of understanding about science topics in order to explain the topic in detail and creatively to increase the students' interest and produce more young scientists in future. But I am sure that there are many more problems in order to produce more new scientists. What is your opinion, Hazwani?
I agree with your opinion, Diong and Fazlina, but I have my own view about this on how to produce a new young scientist generation. Well, next, I will explain what STEM is. In general, STEM is an abbreviation for the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This STEM has become the basis of education and curriculum in school because with this policy, it can increase foreign force in the field of the science development. Along with the development of the word and learning, STEM has been set in the primary school standard curriculum, like known as KSSR, and the secondary school standard curriculum, that we known as KSSM, for each student to learn while in school. The use of this STEM is to provide a package of elective subjects to students related to science because STEM is a field of learning in school and a field of study at the school level, especially in secondary school. Among the subjects offered to the student based on the field of science, chemistry, mathematics, and sustainability, fundamental, community, graphic, and computer science. This STEM will not apply. This STEM will not stop at the school level, but it will continue towards higher level of education, namely the third tier level, such as mechanical engineering, biomedical, and information system computing. From here, we can see that STEM greatly contribute to the formation of a new generation that delves deeper into the field of science for their learning and as well as for their future. Science learning in the younger generation requires a carefully traveled framework to prepare the student to face the challenges in science, no matter whether during school, such as exam or while their work in the future. As a person in a very school, it is very necessary to play a role and give inspiration and opportunity to observe and student to appreciate the STEM because STEM aims to provide opportunity for students to observe, acquire, and applying knowledge, skill, and value in contents daily life, society, and the environment as integrated in the curriculum. I'm confident that every effort that we want to carry out will have its own challenge in any field. For example, the implementation of STEM in school also has its own constraints that teacher and student have to face. Based on a study conducted by Xiao et al. In 2015, has stated that one of the challenges faced while implementing STEM discipline in school, whether primary or school or university, is the lack of facility and infrastructure in school. The data show that 87% of schools are not equipped with material and facilities in their science laboratories. This is very important because in science, the theory learned in the field of degrees are not enough to give a deep understanding to students. Observe for themselves the way the process relates to the subject so they can understand the topic easily. For example, in chemistry, most students cannot understand the topic because many experiments need to be conducted so the student can get an idea on how the process takes place and can answer the exam question more accurately. This is because most students will easily remember what they learned from the activity. This will make it easier for them to review the lesson. The study was conducted on several respondents, and the information stated that as many as 3.48% prove that the apparatus in the laboratory was incomplete. So, to overcome this problem, the school needs to allocate special funds to buy laboratory supplies so the experiment process to be carried out can carry out smoothly. This is also able to attract students as early as primary school level because they are exposed to STEM from the beginning. Ultimately, school and the government play an important role in this challenge because although this issue is small in the eyes of others, but this small matter should be addressed immediately. Finally, before I close this forum, I would like to emphasize that to produce young scientists, there are various challenges that need to be faced. Proactive measures need to be carried out continually, such as PISA, TIPS, and STEM, because I believe in this way able to produce scientifically knowledge Malaysia. That's all from us. Thank you.